There are hundreds of patterns on bass. Let's start with this one. This is a root, a 5 and a 6. Now when I say things like that, I'm talking intervals. If you're weak on intervals, I'll put a lesson right here to explain them. But every single chord has a root note. So I'm going to do this on B, 2nd fret, A string. That's the root note, like the key that we're in. The B major scale. If I drop down to the same fret on the E string, I get the 5, which is F sharp. And then 2 frets across is the G sharp. That's the major 6. So you do need to know the notes on bass. I know that's B, F sharp, G sharp. But how I'm learning it is root 5, 6, okay? Now wherever you are on the A string, the D string or the G string, you can move that pattern around. So for example, F, 3rd fret, D string. If you do the same pattern, you get that root 5, 6 pattern just now on an F, okay? What about C on the 5th fret of the G string? Okay, so these patterns, that's what I mean when I say you can move them around. What I mean when I say that they're linked to chords is that this is a major pattern. So let's say you saw a B major chord or you heard a B major chord. These are some notes you can play over it. There are others. Watch to the end of this lesson, because at the end of this lesson, I'm going to show you how to combine some of these shapes to just improvise and make stuff up. It's also going to help you with listening to a bass line and going, I recognize that. I'll show you what I mean now. So there's our root 5, 6 on B. One song I wrote down that contains that. I mean, loads do, but this one. Do I Do by Stevie Wonder. Now, I guarantee that you will learn these, and by the way, there's a free PDF via the link below. You'll learn these, you'll play them, and you'll hear a bass line that you recognize. I guarantee you. So we've got B. Now this is the first thing you need to do. You need to learn the pattern, and you need to be walking down the street and humming that pattern so that when you hear it in a song, you're like, oh, that's that root 5, 6. I promise you, with some training, you can do that. It's not something that only a select few can do. You will always be linking a pattern to a sound. It's not just playing these blind patterns. You're making music with this, you're linking it to a sound. Then it goes, little chromatic movement, F sharp, F to E, 2nd fret, D string, and then we've got the same pattern again. So we've got B to E major chords, and it's that pattern over it. That's another pattern I'll come to after. Let's move the same pattern to D, 5th fret of the A string, and you'll recognize this. The intro to Town Called Malice by The Jam. Or Higher and Higher, both in that key actually. So lots of soul music, R&B, blues, Motown uses that pattern, but you can use this anywhere. You can use this in any style that you want. It works over major chords. Right, what have we got next? Pentatonic. So let's look at this. We've got a minor pentatonic. I'm going to do this in the key of C for now. So that's the 3rd fret of the A string. And this is a basic 1 octave minor pentatonic shape. So I know the sound of that. It just is a really, really common sound. I've played it a million times. The first 3 notes sound like smoke on the water. So even with this, within this one pattern, we have many other patterns, which I'll go into a bit more, but root, octave. You know, that's a really easy one to hear, I think, and to see it. 2 across, 2 across, we've got that octave pattern. Now this pattern here is root 5, flat 7, octave. Very common in bass playing. So any time Let's just say you have a chord chart, for example, and you see a C minor chord. Those notes all fit over it. E flat. Flat minor, I should say. So that's one application of this. Have a chord chart and play this collection of notes over it. It will fit. Obviously, writing a bass line, you could do that very easily using these patterns and moving them around. But I wanted to show you this one actually. So we've got the root there, the C. The B flat here, first fret A string. That's the flat 7. The E flat is the flat 3rd. That's that beginning of Smoke on the Water. And that 4th completes it. Technically a perfect 4th, but you can just say 4th. Anyhow, that pattern. I encourage you to do this sort of thing, which is just take the thing I'm showing you and make music from it. What did I hear? I had, just before recording this lesson, Thriller, right? See, that's combining the two shapes. There's that minor pentatonic, and this is just a few notes from it. Depending on how you play, you can take these patterns into different genres. I love that pattern. Now, if you move that across a bit, let's go there. So I'm going frets 8, 10, 8, 10 of the A and the D string. But then you go down 2 frets, and I'm now on E flat. You have another really common, really useful pattern on bass, and that is a major pentatonic pattern. This is a little bit heading towards music theory. I'm not going to go too much into that, but C minor and E flat major are related. They contain the same notes, exactly the same notes. So here we go, that pattern again. Let's just say you're jamming, or you're at a jam night and someone's playing an E flat major chord. Well, this collection of notes is perfect. Now let's introduce some combination of the patterns. The first pattern I showed you, the root 5, 6 one, the one that works over major chords. Well, here, look, perfect place to play that as well. See, that's that pattern, and that's a pattern. Once you learn a pattern, by the way, you're not really thinking about it too much. It just falls under the fingers naturally. That's called practice, and that's just what you have to do. We can go to the C and we can mix those patterns up. The C minor ones. So I'm doing E flat. In my head I can hear this. There's an E flat major chord going on over this, and then a C minor chord going on over that. One way to really unlock the fretboard and to connect up some of these patterns is just to learn a pentatonic scale, but just everywhere, like this. This is F minor. That's 1 octave, okay? The notes are F, A flat, B flat, C, E flat, okay? Now, those are the only notes in that scale, but you can continue across the whole of the fret with a series of patterns or shapes. That would be the first one. And then if you start on the next note, the A flat, and I'm just instantly trying to make music and patterns, little permutations, gaps. I'm trying to do that with these patterns to make it sound good. That would be shape 2. I'll run through them. This is shape 3, 4, 5. That's the 5th note of the scale. Then we get to pattern number 1 again. But that was just 5 notes. F, A flat, B flat, C, E flat. Just where those notes occur everywhere on the bass. There are all those patterns I've shown you up to now are in there somewhere, as are lots of others. I'll put that PDF below as well, so make sure you learn all of that, and you can just move it to different keys if you want. So I was in C minor, wasn't I? So what about moving that first shape to C on the E string? You can even do that pattern here. Brilliant for transposing. If you're on a gig and you need to move to a different key, you just move a pattern around. By the way, that's really helpful on a 5 string. I'll put a video right here that explains that. I'll stay on C and just cover a couple of very basic patterns. Here's a root 5. That's that pattern. 2 across, 1 string away. That's your C to your G. Put that G down, an octave. That's also root 5. So, you know, country music. It's full of root 5, as is Latin. Bossa nova. The great thing about that is that pattern will fit over a major chord, a minor chord, a dominant 7th chord, almost any chord apart from a diminished or an augmented chord. That note, that selection of notes will fit. Add the octave in, and you've got a really cool, very simple thing. Let's go to F minor. Okay, I'll just explain what I'm doing here. So I'm going 8th fret of the A string. I'm in the key of F minor, which is a pattern I will show you actually now, down here. 1st fret E string or 8th fret A string, it doesn't matter where you play it, as long as you start from an F. There's the pattern. You can start it from here. You sort of run out of strings a bit, but start it from here. It's just all the same shapes everywhere. That's what I mean about unlocking the neck. I'll return to what I just played just 2 seconds ago, but I just want to go down here 1 minute and take that very simple pattern. Let's work on our improvising skills, okay? So learn that pattern and let's apply patterns within patterns. Let's do octaves. That's that shape. So you've got the F and then 2 across, octave pattern. Very randomly, just going to different notes within that key, okay? I don't have any backing tracks for this lesson, but in my head, that's the speed I went, and I'm subdividing. You need to work on your sense of rhythm to be able, and technique, to be able to bring all of these things together and improvise freely. You can practice all those things. Let's do a bit more of a rocky thing. I'll just do root note. Kaiser Chief. That's the way you need to practice, by just making bass lines up, then learning as many bass lines as you can and working out the key, and you'll find that these patterns will completely dovetail with all of that. Okay, let's go back to this 8th fret. I want to take these notes. F on the 8th fret A string, E flat, and D flat. Now you really need to know how to harmonize a scale. That's another link to a lesson here. I'm not going to go into it in this lesson other than to say the chords that you get from this key are F minor, E flat major, and D flat major. You know, as bass players, we might be playing roots and not understand why we need to know that, what we do with it. but it's really important, okay? Because over this F minor, let's take that shape, you know, the root, flat 7, flat 3rd and 4. Let's take that shape for the F minor. For the E flat, let's take just a root, a 5th and an octave. And for the D flat, since it's major, let's take the major pentatonic shape. To do this on the fly, you can obviously see why you need a really strong command of this. That's practice. But here we go. That's the speed I'm going. There's a good bass line, right? So I was just playing minor shapes over that minor. Obviously, I'm restricting myself right now, which I think that's a good way to practice, by the way. Just restrict yourself to a few things, like maybe just root 5 octave all the way. A really good song I like that uses root 5 octave is Sir Duke. And there's another unmentionable band and an unmentionable song that's very famous. I'll put the text up here. Someone in the office of that band trawls through YouTube videos for people playing that song and they put a copyright strike. It's ridiculous, but it's a good song to highlight that root 5 octave. If you've had any value from this lesson up to now, by the way, could you please hit the subscribe button? That really helps with the channel. I hope that I've convinced you up to this point that patterns are good on bass, right? So how do we learn them? Okay, one at a time. So you could start with just the root octave. And a great thing to do is to move it around a key. So you know, F minor. You get F major. That's just the first few notes of F major scale playing octaves. You'll find yourself really making music. So that's root octave. You might then bring that 5th in. You really will start to hear these patterns. You know, as I'm playing, I'm hearing random bass lines in my head. You'll do the same. It's going to make learning songs so much easier. It's really crucial to know all the note names on your bass. So if I demo something in the key of F minor, I just can see where all the Fs are. I like octave patterns for that, and there are a few others. I can get to these patterns really easily because I know all the notes. So really make sure you do that. Then I put here, look, know the scales, chords, triads, and arpeggios are related, and know your harmonized scales. So that's kind of what I've showed you, F natural minor. That's a scale. You get a triad from it, root, 3rd, 5th. Flat 3rd in this case. At the octave, you have an arpeggio. At the 7th, you've got a minor 7th arpeggio. This is certainly music theory. You get a bunch of different patterns that all relate to each other and can be moved. There's F minor. F minor triad. Move it to C. 8th fret, E string. Down 2 frets, B flat. And I'll reiterate the really important point of learning the shape, but also the sound. It's just good to link it to existing songs, you know, or bass lines or melodies. I always think, or I used to anyway, Smoke on the Water. That's that bit, right? Whenever I hear that, it's minor 3rd, got it. No matter where you play it on a bass, it's a minor 3rd. I use patterns all the time. They absolutely revolutionized my bass playing. They're not the only thing. You need to have a good sense of rhythm, a good sense of timing, a good ear, a knowledge of different styles, know when to use them, know when not to use them. There's loads of other things that are not patterns. Technique, really important. It just is a massively important tool, though, in playing bass. So I hope you got something from that lesson. If you did, as I said, please like the video, please subscribe, please share, do all that. That really helps my channel. It's just me here doing it. If you have any questions, let me know. Thanks so much for watching to the end if you did, and I'll see you on the next one.